papers because it's becoming later and we were asked to fill out the
Sure.
forms. So I feel like that's only fair to do that first.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so one of the questions asked here is, this individual has rentals in Alexandria, and just wondering how often they should test their rental property. I assume they're probably asking for total coliform sampling. Again, I think we've been over that exhaustively, how much testing is done by Mark and the water department here. If you want to test on your own, you're more than welcome to. There's a list of certified labs. You don't have to use HML. There's all kinds of labs throughout the state to use. We don't have a solid recommendation for a homeowner to collect samples on their own. It's completely up to you. If you're connected to a public water system, it is already being monitored for regulated contaminants. So let's leave it at that. Clint, is there anything?
Yeah, there's definitely some more questions.
So for this one, it would say, can someone from the plant explain the backflow or backfilling procedures, the frequency, and if it is possible from, source until to get by and into the system? When you're saying backfilling, are you talking about a backwash from the actual filters?
Backflow, backwash.
Okay. No, I mean, so the backwash that comes from into the filters, it goes straight to the sanitary sewer line. So it's not getting pumped back out. Everything gets isolated, and then once it gets backwashed, it's going into the sanitary sewers. So it's not going to go back into the distribution system. Does that answer your question?
That's another thing that IDEM looks at is backflow prevention, and there would be an air gap on the filters at the plant to prevent any potential backflow. And irrigation systems in a residential setting, businesses that have certain types of processes are required to have backflow prevention. Those need to be tested annually, and that's monitored.
The next question is, what methods did the residents use to sample their water when there were unsatisfactory results? I think Lucille answered that already in his presentation. It was the Kohler count method, and we put the method type on that Alexandria map that we pulled up earlier.
So this one is, do we get charged more on our bill to fix water and sewage problems? That would be a question for Mark. We don't.
Under the Safe Drinking Water Act and RTCR, the maximum contaminant level for coliform is 0. Can you confirm this applies to all residential taps, not just the plant? So I think it goes back to, we are looking at the compliance sampling, those 6 samples per month to determine what, where those results ultimately report at, and if those are 0 for coliform or not.
It's less than 1.
Or less than 1, sorry. Thank you.
It's very important.
What specific location in Alexandria routinely sampled each month for bacteria? I think we kind of went over that with the size sample plans. I assume that's okay.
What lab methods are used by IDEM to test for E. coli and chlorine residuals, and how is the collection process documented, including the chain of custody from field collection through lab analysis? Clint, I don't know if you want to take a stab at that with how you go through when you collect a sample, you fill out a chain of custody and time, date.
So for us, right, if I'm taking sample, right, it doesn't leave my custody, so I'm going straight to the Indy lab. But say for like Mark and his guys, if they're taking one, if someone takes a sample and it's going from one place to one place, they have a chain of custody, which everybody has to fill out who has that, who's touched it, and then that also accompanies with the lab. So it's showing who and what time, the time frame of who's touched it and where it's going, and if that sample is either, if it's been on ice, because that's one thing that lab's going to, first thing we're going to look at is how long has it been since the sample was actually taken? Has it been on ice? Is it still cold? Because the warmer it gets, right, the more things that can grow inside that bottle. So that's what they're trying to figure out. That's where that chain of custody is very important, because then you can find the break in the cycle of what happened to this sample before it actually came to the lab. So.
And also, the compliance samples that Mark's collecting, the 6 samples on the distribution system, is also required to collect for chlorine residuals, and that's documented on the form, and that goes to the lab. And some on the map, on the website, some of the samples will have chlorine residuals and some may not. So, those that don't have it are because they're not compliant samples.
Next question here is, when a resident is dismissed as improper sampling technique, why does IDEM not follow the RTCR's repeat sampling requirements to confirm or rule out contamination at that location? So the revised total coliform rule is RTCR. That's only applied with those 6 compliant samples, because per EPA requirements, repeat sampling is only triggered if there's a positive sample at those specific locations, because we approved that site
That's not
sampling
true.
plan. Now, we will be available to assist residents if they collected samples on their own and they have concern with the results. We'd be happy to come out and investigate that further.
Lisa, this was the second part of what I was trying to get at with you regarding, explaining about your sample specifically. Because it was a resident collected the sample and it was positive, it was not a utility compliant sample. That's why it doesn't trigger the repeat requirements.
And there was a second question to that. How does IDEM verify the chain of custody and sample in those cases? So the chain of custody, that's
Sample
sent to the,
integrity.
I'm sorry?
Sample integrity. in those
Sample
cases.
integrity, thank you, in those cases. So the chain of custody that's filled out by the sample collector sent to the certified lab. The certified lab has that certification because they know what to look for on that chain of custody to make sure everything is accurate. They check the temperature, make sure it's not a week after the sample was collected, because it would be invalid right away. So there's certain requirements that the certified lab has to go through. And then the sample result is ultimately electronically uploaded into our database for our review and confirmation that the result is satisfactory. Or if it is present, then we would take additional action and have the water system collect repeat samples if necessary, like Lucy was saying.
You might also point out that if a sample is out of the time limit, or if it's out of temperature,
Right.
the sample will be, basically the results will come back on that it was unacceptable,
Yes.
not unsatisfactory, but the sample
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
unacceptable.
invalid, is that
Yeah.
a fair word to say? Yeah.
Can I ask you a quick question? He's speaking as a subject matter expert this entire time, and I don't even know who he is. Can somebody come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can introduce
go ahead.
yourself.
Don Hendrickson, HML.
How you doing?
Hey, yours?
Were any samples taken by IDEM at the service connections outside of the homes with the confusing results, or just at the faucet? So normally, we don't take samples, right? When, I know Lucio kind of touched on that earlier, that if we do, that's us trying to go above and beyond. But all the samples that have been taken from either residents or Mark. We've been asked to sit in, to watch, take samples, but typically we're not taking samples. And for Alexandria, IDEM hasn't taken a physical sample from anybody's home.
They didn't take
Is that, I
sample
hope
from
that
your
answers.
home? No, they didn't take any sample from my home. I even called Mark to come and take a sample.
I think this next question seems kind of similar here. Why does IDEM only test from interior faucets when EPA guidance states the public water system's legal responsibility is at the distribution system connection, not a private home's plumbing fixtures? I think we've been over this too exhaustively. The 6 sample locations are set up throughout the distribution system per EPA requirements. IDEM may assist homeowners to collect those samples like we have here. I haven't actually physically collected them, I think, as was alluded to earlier. We did help go over those sampling protocols.
This one, it's kind of direct toward me. It says, Clint was the only person to perform testing for IDEM or the water department. Again, I didn't take any of the samples from any tests. There was one where, at least it was at your house, where we took the residuals, but we didn't take any tests at that time. And that was due to time frame. It was in the middle of the night. Or
This
was
is
it
7
6?
o'clock in the evening.
7 o'clock in the evening, so no lab is not open. There's no point to keep that sample overnight when we can do it again in the morning and then try to. So I hope that
No.
clears up that one.
There's no test.
Yep.
Mark
How
told me
many
to
change
take
of
the test
samples
so we
are?
can figure out what's going on.
They should say,
Sample size.
Yeah. so once we approve a routine site sampling plan, they should not change unless if there's some kind of issue with that sample site, if the operator can no longer access that location, then he'll notify IDEM, we'll review their proposed new sample location, make sure it makes sense, it's still representative of the distribution system.
Don't you think this
What are we
might be a
calling
good
that?
time to maybe change those samples?
And that's what had happened
They did
before, so
the
that was
test.
during the beginning of all this, we reviewed it with Mark, and
Yeah, we-
that sample had, or
That's
that
the
site
size.
sample plan has been changed and already approved all the way through it.
And one of the sites was to add on the convalescent center.
Is that,
It's still a test.
they're drilling a new well out there, is that?
That's Anderson.
That's Anderson.
That's nothing to do with Alexandria, yes.
And we review that site sampling plan every 3 years, and if a community grows and adds a subdivision, then we find that there's need to add another site, then we'll go ahead and recommend that they add a site, so we're constantly reviewing that.
So they just
Other questions?
That was the last one, I think that
One
was.
of
Yeah,
those-
but
I had one, and this is gonna go back to where you talked about, the sampling and keeping it, you said putting it on ice. You said that if the water could get warmer, then it could increase
6 more.
the possible for contaminants. Now, if it gets colder, does that decrease? How does temperature affect the increase or decrease of contaminants, or does it? If it gets warmer, I know it's gonna
Right.
be bad, but.
It's, you know, again, it goes back to laboratory-specific requirements that they have to, a certain window of time and temperature of samples that they need to accept, that are okay for them to accept. So the temperature is a process of fixing the sample so that it stays in stasis
Gotcha.
as representative of when it was collected. So we don't want to sample at 20 degrees Celsius and it arrives at the lab at 40 degrees Celsius, you know, or whatever that translates into. But now it's a different set of circumstances altogether. So that's why ice is generally used to sort of preserve the conditions of sample. Groundwater typically is recognized to be 55 degrees Fahrenheit.
But if you was to put it on ice and it dropped to 40 degrees, is that gonna change, will that change the outcome of the test?
No.
They said that's the end of the questions, and I have 6 more
Only-
questions.
It'd be like almost like if you boiled dry
There
water,
was no
right?
answer to the
You're gonna
question.
kill everything, and that's what you don't want. And now you just, so like that's why there's a temperature range that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering, all the people that have testified tonight about they got water problems, are they all in the same vicinity, or is it all over LA?
That's cool.
Yeah, the map showed, it's sort of in the middle, but it's a sort of, I mean, I don't know.
So there's no more written questions?
I think that's it. It's,
Okay.
it's not in the same neighborhood. It's around.
We don't have a copy of what we turned in, just so you know.
The blue diamonds, that's what you're looking at.
I wouldn't know why you said that my house
So,
was asking
you know, in this area here.
my neighborhood and
And what
I
vicinity
don't
is
know why
that
they said they
of
didn't
it?
test in
I'm not
anyone's
sure.
house. They came in the fucking house
Is
and they
that
tested.
downtown, is that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
can
not
you
pre.
zoom out?
I understand it,
That's,
but they did a test. Well, I
First
remember the
Park
job. Is it
and
beneficial?
Third
Is it not a
District
test?
child lived in.
I mean, what kind of fuckery is this?
Innisdale?
Of course.
So, yeah, these two points here,
Yeah.
This Black Street, Black and Third. But she lived on Alexandria and Harrison.
so Black Street here was satisfactory. There's two right here that were unsatisfactory, collected by residents. And then this sample here was satisfactory. I think this may be the closest
Also your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if they were anywhere close to each other, or if there was a problem with the piping in town, or, in that one vicinity, or what? 'Cause I live on
Well,
West Street.
let me know if they ever find those 10 questions. Okay.
My question is kind of for the city officials. Is this why we keep getting notices that we need to replace our water line from the meter to our house? Do I not pay for my service to my house or only to the meter?
So, two separate issues. So yes, The
And then-
utility
then
has
want the
been passed,
resident to eat the cost.
so the utility has been passed by EPA and IDEM to identify all the service lines in the town. What material is it made of? Is it galvanized? Is it lead? Is it galvanized with lead? Is it copper with
They
lead? Is
tested
it copper,
all of the
copper?
houses in
You know,
my
is it
neighborhood.
plastic and
They
so
should be
on?
up there, shouldn't
They
they?
submitted that information to IDEM. That information is on the website. Is it available publicly yet? Matt?
The service line inventory information, yeah, we have a website for all public water systems throughout the state that had to submit a service line inventory. You can actually enter your address in, and on that map, you can see what type of service line material is there. I will let you know, a lot of systems are still investigating that, so you may see unknown, and that's not unusual to see that. There's still a lot of work ahead to figure out the service line material for the millions of service connections throughout the state.
Is there a
So then,
deadline?
the next step is to
Is there a
then
deadline?
on known lead and unknown is to further investigate and
So we're past the
notify
deadline.
the homeowner
Deadlines to submit
and start
inventory. It's
work
okay to say it's
on
unknown.
replacing.
They're investigating.
So in this
I
situation.
mean, that's not really submitting an
The
inventory.
service line is from the main to the house. So that's the
If you tell me to
responsibility.
inventory all of the
of
stuff
the
that I have in a
utility.
store and I say unknown, I didn't
In
submit
the
an
case
inventory.
of lead service line replacement, the utility is responsible from the main to the house. In the case of water service responsibility, if the service, and I don't know where your meter is, but where my meter is, it comes from the main to a vault in my front yard. From that meter to my house, I am responsible. But in the sense of lead service line replacement, the utility is responsible from the meter to my house.
Okay, I live in one of the oldest neighborhoods in Alexandria, so I'm sure, and my meter is 100 yards from my house, at least.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is there a criminal
Are
code
they-
covering that?
Will the utility replace that, or am I gonna have to replace
They're
it?
eventually. they're
It's,
gonna try.
each utility is different. It all depends on local ordinances that have been passed. It varies by, I don't know what
There's
Alexandria's
been
protocol
notices
is.
telling people they need replaced.
That's
Yes.
because they're going to try to make you replace it first as the homeowner until they have to do it. It will finally come down on them to do it, eventually.
Marion right now is in the process of changing about 1,000 roughly main lines from the main all the way to the first fitting inside of a person's home. Now, that could be in the basement,
Yeah.
could be in crawl space. If you're in a slab, it could be, hey, we're gonna cut your floor up.
Yep, absolutely.
And then you're telling us that we're gonna be responsible for those same lead lines here? Why, wait a minute.
First fitting will be right at your meeting.
Wait a minute. Not what
Or
he
the
said.
city hall meetings, because there's
Yeah, there
grants
is.
that the
No,
city
it's
can
not.
get. There's grants the city can get for this, so for instance, Lapel has something going on right now where they got grant money so that all of those, pipes are actually gonna be replaced for free. So it's not on the homeowner. So go to city hall meetings and speak up and ask, have you guys been applying for the grants? Is what I would do.
Board of Works.
I've got one final question. I know that we have mentioned failing infrastructure that's ancient. How does failing infrastructure and clean good water go hand in hand? Can you explain that?
Yes. So when there is a failure, there's a leak, and then the leak gets identified and fixed and repaired. And so, it's restored. And, so then the area is flushed and samples are collected. And if the samples come back satisfactory, then that issue is resolved. The utility has responsibility if they're going to shut the water off to certain residents because of a water main leak or break or replacement, then a boil water advisory is issued ahead of the work or after the fact, so that residents are aware why the water's off or why it's going to be off and so on, why there was an interruption. And then the repair is done, and then after the section is flushed and samples are collected, and then when the samples come back and they're satisfactory, a boil water advisory lift or cancellation is issued.
Any other questions?
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out.
Water safe in Alexandria?
Yes, yes.
So they say.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate the time. All right, have a good evening, everyone.